welcome back to my channel. It's story time, talking about my past life as a flight attendant. And today I'm going to tell you a story about the worst fight I've ever been in with another crew member on a flight. My worst fight. I'm so glad I didn't mess those two words up. Anyway, okay, so I was the A flight attendant. So I was working first class in the front of the plane. The B and the C flight attendants are in the back, and then the D flight attendant had just come on board, and your D switches a lot. If you're the D, you're probably going to get a new crew every leg or couple legs in your trip. Just they shuffle around a lot. So my D, he walks on board, and I introduced myself, and he introduced himself. We talk about our trips, what our trips look like, how many day trip is it, how many legs are you doing today, what leg are you on, yada yada. After the pleasantries are done, and I mean right after the pleasantries are done, he immediately goes into trying to tell me that humanity is not made for monogamy. And immediately I say, well, I'm happily married, and I beg to differ. And he then goes into explaining that he has a degree in anthropology and was very, very sure of himself about this. Mind you, he seemed very sure of himself in a lot of ways, and I kind of was under the impression a lot of people don't disagree with him because they're probably somewhat like mesmerized by him. Oh my goodness, no. Ew, no. Anyway, just to kind of paint a picture, he starts immediately going in on why we're the only species in the animal kingdom that attempts monogamy. And we are the least happy in the animal kingdom. All these other species, they go around sleeping around and they're happy, but we are not. That was the whole crux of his argument, is that humanity is not happy, so therefore we should be polygamous. Anyway, I disagreed with this sentiment, and I don't generally take the opportunity to argue with people about things, but he was kind of asking for it, and I was more than happy to oblige in this particular instance. So I immediately go in on explaining my view and why I think the way I do, and I go into immediately saying, first off, if you're talking happiness, that's the basis for your argument. If you are unfaithful to your partner, how's it going to make your partner feel? I don't think it's going to make them happy. The human condition has a lot of emotions attached to it. One, if that happens, then jealousy is likely going to happen. Wrath, rage, perhaps vengefulness, definitely unforgiveness. And anyway, so I'm saying these things, I'm going, these are the things that I would attribute with unfaithfulness and what happens when that happens and why that's not very happy. Honestly, I think you're going to have a happier marriage if you pursue monogamy and focus on that one person. Because when your partner is happy, you're happy, and just kind of going in there. He very strongly disagreed with me and decided to argue about that and explained how he was more higher evolved person because he believed that we should be above petty jealousies and above all that and just be happy and live as free and as we see fit. And man, he was infuriating. I was so irritated. So irritated. Because it was like everything I said fell on deaf ears. And you know how sometimes you're having an argument and then you think of after the fact a line that you're like, I wish I'd thought to say that. Yeah, that happened as well. So while we're having this debate, argument, what have you, I really wished that I had said something along the lines of this. If you are in a committed relationship and you are pursuing one person and you're trying to be there for them, you're trying to make them happy and put them first and truly to love them and make them number one in your life, and you're focused on that, because love is yes, it's a feeling, but it's more than that. It's not just a feeling. It's an action. It is true love is putting that person first. True love is a choice. It's a selfless act every day that you're trying to put this person who you chose to be with as your number one priority in this earth. And when you do that, it creates such a deep bond, because then they're going to do that for you because you're doing it for them. And it's this reciprocality there that you're doing it for each other, and you just fall deeper and deeper in love and devotion and caring. And you just have a deeper revelation of what love is as you do that. And people who don't pursue monogamy will never understand what that feels like. And I wish I had thought to say something along those lines, but it was after the fact. You know when you're in bed trying to sleep and you're like, man, if only I'd said that. Anyway, at the time, I was just irritated. So, finished our service, and we're doing everything, taking a little break, taking a breather, still flying, and I had enough of him. So I took the opportunity to walk to the back to talk to the B&D flight attendants who were back there. And this was my first flight with them as well, even though I was going to stay with them on the trip. And I just go back there, and I was just going to vent to them and tell them how annoying this jerk is. Anyway, but before I could even say a word about him, they immediately go in on saying, ooh, he likes you. And I'm like, oh, I should hope not. He's arguing with me about monogamy and how humanity is not made for it, and we'd all be happier if we just slept around. And I'm a happily married person. And they were like, oh, he said that. We didn't, oh. And I said, and on top of that, he has a girlfriend, and apparently they're in an open relationship, and just to each his own, of course, but I just don't know how that's going to work out for him. I don't know. Anyway, so I tell them this, and I'm telling them his argument about the happiness thing, and about how we're the only animal in the animal kingdom that tries to be monogamous, and every other species doesn't like mate for life. And they were like, well, that's actually not true. And I was like, oh, do tell. And I didn't realize this, but penguins mate for life, bald eagles mate for life, dolphins mate for life. And armed with this information, I was ready to go face him again up front. So I march up first class with this new information, and I tell him, by the way, there are species that mate for life. And I told him what they had said about what those species were, and his response, of course, he's going to argue with everything I say. His response was, well, there's exceptions to every rule, but they're just that. They are exceptions, small exceptions. And I said, well, there's one glaring exception, is that of the human race. And I'm a married person who is in that exception of I choose to mate for life. And that was the end of that argument. Anyway, that was the time I got in a big old argument with another flight attendant. And let me tell you, the rest of that flight was a little bit awkward, because we were just kind of sitting awkwardly, and oh man, it made me really uncomfortable after hearing what they had said about them in the back, thinking he liked me. So I was not comfortable at all, and was so glad when the flight was done and he got off the flight. And man, did I have a story to tell my husband when I got off that flight and gave him a ring. Anyway, join me for more stories from my past life as a flight attendant. I'm going to be posting once a week, and good to have you here. Thanks. Bye.